Senate than today. What we just witnessed was a travesty. It was a travesty to the United States Constitution, and it was a travesty to the American people.
That's Ted Cruz in the wake of the squashing of any investigation by a jury called the United States Senate in yesterday's dud of an impeachment trial. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm Randy Tobler. There's producer Hannah Stephanie out at the Leaders Breakfast at Ashland.
Playing hooky
again. And John Marsh is down there with an interesting report. We've been talking a lot about aviation, and John, we got a little sound on that we'll play in a bit. It's crazy, man. The skies are windy, but crazy plane things happening. We'll be talking about that as well. And the FFA convention going on in town.
Yeah.
Be having some fun with Scott Stone, who's your former FFA advisor, right?
Oh, yeah.
In Centralia.
I'm hoping he doesn't share anything embarrassing.
I hope he does. At 7:35, we'll be checking in with Scott Stone there. Travis Fitzwater, of course, he's chair of the Budget Committee on the House side, will be with us at 8:10. Talking about the Education Freedom Act, because that passed in the Senate but hasn't made it through the House. John's interesting jostling and, I guess, leveraging of the various power centers. Is that the best way to put it between the Senate?
Oh, that's real flowery.
House?
That's a good way to put it, I think. You know, kind of like Hannah said, kind of in glowing terms, kind of like Lincoln Huff throwing down on Bill Eigel yesterday with us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri without too much prompting.
Bill texted me last night, was not happy with the back and forth yesterday, and the way we were too soft on Bill on Senator Huff. So I've invited Senator Eigel on to rebut what was said about him by Lincoln, something about not enough stamina, right? To debate on the budget. And I think Bill has plenty of stamina. He's a veteran.
Are you doing damage control now?
No.
He's done his share of staying up till 2:30 in the morning on the floor of the Senate, so you can't say they don't have the stamina involved.
As I have told Bill Eigel and the Missouri Freedom Caucus friends, Bob Onder being one of them, and he's a good friend of mine. I feel Lincoln is a new friend, and as I said in full disclosure, I go to church with and actually am currently praying for. We have some various generations in our church pray for younger people in the church, and currently, Jacob Shelp is my prayer partner, and so I pray for him to be successful in there. Jacob's on the show here occasionally. I think they're all very good people. I think they both sides have major, major blind spots. I keep saying it. Why can't the Missouri legislature pass some serious education reform? Charter schools here and a little expansion of EAP there. No, I want to see vouchers.
Well, and did you see what some of our lawmakers received as a little gift yesterday?
I did. Adam Schwadron received a little, what did he call it, a sweet treat?
Something like that.
Now, Bev Allen used to, I don't know if it's still concerned women of America, but also I guess she's with another group. What's that called? The Liberty Link PAC, right?
Yeah.
And they said Adam posted on his X. He's of course a candidate for Secretary of State, I believe, right?
Yes.
The field is so large. I forget who's running for what. Sweet treat appeared on our desks, he says. The accompanying note is a bit disturbing. All sorts of ways to make a point about legislation. Alleged food tampering is not one of them.
And the sweet treat in question
is
a very unassuming little
looks like
brownie
a muffin,
in a
little brownie
liner.
in a cupcake liner. Yeah, it looks brown. Looks it's got a little crust on it, just like it came out of Grandma's oven. Yeah.
The letter attached to it, though, is titled Dog Poop Brownies. So
I don't know who Janet Martin is. Do you know who Janet Martin is?
I don't.
They look absolutely decadent, rich, chocolatey, and sweet. Go ahead and try one. You deserve a special treat. But I feel ought to warn you, as I see your hefty scoop, there's a secret ingredient, half a teaspoon of dog poop. And it goes on.
Someone has watched The Help one too many times, I think.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what I was thinking. The movie The Help.
Well, and even if there's not actually dog crap in these, why would you even insinuate it? That's like a little sick and
Well,
twisted.
I would say that the Capitol Police and or the Highway Patrol might get involved in an investigation of that because they have a very low tolerance for that kind of humor at the Capitol.
There's 4 verses here and then in this sick poem. And then, please vote no on SB 727 as it is written. School choice with strings isn't really a choice. Liberty Link, Missouri, Bev Allen, president is the way the bottom signature is on there. It's so I don't know. I mean, I wanted to say I'm not sure that this is real. This could have been Adam could have faked this. I doubt it. What was sent to him could have been sent under a fake imprimatur, right, John? It could be someone that could be a false flag operation, right? We don't know. I don't know the truth anymore.
Well, our friend Mike Ferguson, of course, you can hear his weekend show on our radio stations. He did put on his Twitter that he confirmed with the group who had signed the letter that they did, in fact, send the letter and the, quote, sweet treat. And they did also confirm that there was no excrement in the brownies.
There wasn't any.
There wasn't
But
any. So they confirmed that they did send it and that there was nothing harmful.
So does a threat of poop without the poop constitute some kind of violation of law? Is there some statutory?
I bet it could. With making a terroristic threat is the charge we often see floated.
And you'd have to lock again. That gets down to the law and stuff like that. It would get down to how Locke Thompson ultimately, the prosecutor in Cole County would have the final say on something like that. And yeah, it's just a different era. It's all really.
Who would have thought that?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Who would have thought that at 6:15 on a Thursday morning we would have already spent like 5 minutes talking about dog poop? What is going on?
Well, we do get hungry in the morning, but that story
Not
just
anymore.
That put away. Yeah, no. Do I want to? I was thinking maybe sneaking out during a break and going over and have some pancakes and bacon and eggs at Stephanie's breakfast event, but not anymore. I'm fasting till noon at least. I don't know.
I will tell you that I've looked at that agenda that Stephanie's going to be emceeing. They're going to have some. There's going to be some news in there. I wish I could be there. Hopefully she can tell. But Rankin Tech, they're going to provide an update on that, the Columbia Regional Airport as well. So that should be good. And yes, you're right. A lot of bacon and eggs.
573-874-9390. Now, remember when Hannah was a kid and the stories, because we never did it as guys, and the guys in our neighborhood never did it. But Hannah and her friends, I understand, would occasionally to Mrs. Cratchit in the neighborhood, or Mr. Cratchit, who you couldn't, if you rode your bike on his lawn, he called the cops. That every neighborhood has one. Hannah, didn't you take a little brown bag of cow, Bravo Sierra and burn it, light fire to it on the doorstep? That was an old trick. Now,
I don't think I ever tried that one. I was very much a goody two shoes who was afraid of getting in trouble.
Me too. I'm a guy who gets violently angry about TPing. And I used to have big arguments with my friends. And later on, as an adult homeowner, I thought kids should be, if they're caught TPing, they should be brought in and booked and maybe, spend a little time behind jail cell for an hour or two. Just, hey, that's defacing someone's property. It's hard to do that, to clean up after that. I have had to do that on occasion.
The neighborhood I grew up in, there were several teachers in our neighborhood, and so I saw a few TPing instances in my lifetime.
Yeah, and I guess some teachers may dismiss that. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't. You can have a lot. You can go swallow a goldfish. Do something funny. Do something crazy. Why do you have to do something to someone else or someone else's property? I don't understand that.
And, we're private property.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean? People do it.
I do.
Egging cars, eggs can hurt cars. The acid in there and stuff that can hurt the fit. It's just not good.
No, it's not.
I don't want to be Mr. Poopy Pants here too early, but I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Dog poopy pants.
Yeah, dog poopy pants. We don't want any of that. Now, on another note, what is going on in the friendly skies around mid-Missouri?
A small plane had to make an emergency landing near Rennick in Randolph County yesterday afternoon. The pilot was okay. He told investigators he had to make an emergency landing in a field after a bird strike on a window. Plane that left an airport in Decatur, Illinois, and was headed to Kansas City. Deputies say the plane wasn't able to make an emergency landing at the Omar Bradley Regional Airport in Moberly.
Okay, so John,
Hey, we know that guy.
That's your report from this morning. I walk
Who was that guy?
Well, I walk in thinking about buying a plane ticket for a trip we might take in June, and I'm hearing about, man, ticket prices are going to peak over the summer. I mean, it's apparently they're just going crazy. I read a report last night, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to get in the skies. Now, commercial aviation is different than, private aviation, but still, why?
I don't know. Tell it to Sully Sullenberger if you want to talk about bird strikes.
Yeah, right. So, John, what is it about a quote closed airport? I mean, do they put a barrier on the airstrip there? I mean, wouldn't you be better off to just glide into a landing strip, rather, even if it's
I don't know the
closed?
story, and that's Brian's old stomping grounds up that way in the Omar Bradley Airport up there. Now, it could be closed for a number of reasons. They don't have staffing in the control tower, or they could have been doing runway repairs. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know either as a listener. I mean, I know they're doing work in the area because Congressman Graves told me about that back in August, but I don't know. I was not under the impression that there was close the airport. He was talking about infrastructure. So I think, no one got hurt in that, but a bird strike is concerning. I'm still very concerned about the fatal crash that happened near Hartsburg on Tuesday. I have been in touch with Brian Lear. They identified the man who was killed as 58-year-old Wade Bates of West Fork, Arkansas. Again, 58 years old. And when I was on with Gary Nolan yesterday, many of you heard me on with Gary, we had a couple more calls saying that this particular plane is dangerous. I have reached out to Captain Lear, of course, is involved in the investigation. I haven't heard back from him specifically on that, but I've really reached out more to NTSB on that angle, and they have not gotten back to me on that. But the NTSB will be back at the site this morning. But no, some of the listeners have to tell us. I assume there's some work going on at Omar Bradley, but
I just pulled up the website for the Omar Bradley Regional Airport, and it says, quote, improvements and expansions are underway to help better serve your needs. And that's the sentence. There's nothing additional with it.
Yeah, so you wonder if the runway is closed.
Well,
I don't know.
I'll tell you who would know is Brian Crane, who's the Jeff City administrator, because he was probably listening to KWS this morning, but he was in the
you pursuing Joe Biden, and you have not identified a single crime.
You are lying. That is a lie. We have not spent $10 million.
Hey, how much have you spent?
We haven't spent hardly anything.
Oh, it's been for free. Okay. All right. Well, in any event,
that's just a little taste of the dust-up here on the Daily DC Rundown as we started. The dust-up yesterday between Jamie Raskin and James Comer going at it about how much money they've spent, how there's wasting time, Raskin says. Comer says, no, Biden profited off of his vice president. It's unbelievable. They're going back and forth, and it's an absolute circus.
Raskin goes on in that clip to say, well, if we didn't spend anything, we got what we paid for, because we ain't got nothing.
I mean, it's just crazy. I'm telling you. Well, today, the Trump hush money trial goes on, and it turns out more and more they only have they've got 5 regular and 6. They want 6 reserve jurists, so 11 they need to get for jurists. And it turns out that if you look at the resumes of most of these people, there's only one of them that have been selected of the first 7. Only one that watches Fox News for their news. Everyone seems to be tuned into the New York Times, to Google, some TikTok, Facebook. But only one, Fox News. And they all love crunchiness. They're all outdoors people living in New York City. They're all outdoorsy. They like to hike. There's something that just doesn't smell right. And if this is the best they can do, I don't know. I don't think Donald Trump, even in a best case, is going to get the selection of a jury that he would like, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how well he plays with the trail mix crowd.
No, I don't think so. Well, Mike Johnson under siege. We reported yesterday that in addition to Marjorie Taylor Greene being after him with a motion to vacate, sitting out there waiting to be launched, the guy from Kentucky is after him as well. So we'll have to see where that goes. But Johnson is releasing his 4-part proposal to send aid to Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, and as a separate bill, border security. And a lot more people in his caucus are getting more and more upset. Why? Because why is it that we're defending everyone else and everyone else's sovereignty and everyone else's border, but not the good old U.S. of A. as they stream across the invaders? They're called newcomers in D.C. terms, but they're invaders across the southern border. I don't know where he's going to go, but if he gets this passed, he's going to need some Democrat help. And of course, the Democrats will be more than happy to help him because
the administration likes his plan.
You bet. I mean, this is just playing right into their hands. I think this guy's got a tough job. I don't know what's up his sleeve, why he is not insisting on border security along with or in front of this other legislation. But we're talking about essentially the package that the Senate passed. Ukraine aid would provide $61 billion. They say 23 in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
And said that they've raised it now, but said that some of the remaining one or ones there has kiosks, and they don't do the service thing like they used to. Is that true? Or Steak and Shake still doing the old kind of service model?
I have not heard of that.
Yeah, they are.
I
know there are some that do have the self-serve kiosks now. So. And in St. Louis.
Yeah, more and more fast food restaurants are going that way. And I guess, hey, when the minimum wage is 13, 14, 15, 20, I mean, in some places it's going crazy.
Locally in Columbia, I tried to get a fast food lunch earlier this week, pulled up to the little speaker at the drive-thru.
Uh-huh.
And the guy very nicely asked if I had like a DoorDash order or if I had ordered on the app.
Uh-huh.
And I said no. And he says, "I'm so sorry. I'm the only employee that's here right now.
Oh, my.
So I'm only doing orders that like had already been paid for, basically."
Wow. Yeah, so he can't take the order and cook the order at the same time. Yeah.
Right.
I was just say you offered to come in and help him with the grill.
Yeah.
I did not, but I told him that I felt for him. So, yeah, I mean, that happened right in Columbia. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
Dude, one guy cooking the rush. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't much of a rush. I mean, he couldn't do a whole lot in that situation.
I miss that interaction. I don't know. It used to be fun to just go up to the counter, and once in a while you'd get that young, eager beaver, pimple-faced high schooler who, making a little money and just wanting to please and, "Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Can I take your order right away? I'll get right at that. Have a nice day."
You need to go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just have really strict training guidelines, but they're very polite there.
I don't think you train that in. I think that's just there. You know what I mean? I don't think you can train nice. They probably select for nice.
Well, and, when you say thank you, they're trained to say my pleasure.
Yes.
I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I found this, it's the internet. Steak and Shake is installing biometric facial recognition check-in and check-out tech across its 300 U.S. locations.
Wow.
Biometric. Pop ID is the name of the company.
Huh. Wonder why. So what does that do? Does that, like, you don't have to log in, right? You have an account there, and if you've got an app.
Yeah, so they know you like your double steak burger without lettuce or something when they scan your retina.
Randy, you have an iPhone. I know John's not quite in the cool kids club.
I had an iPhone and got rid of the darn thing.
Do you use the Face ID feature on your iPhone?
Oh, yeah. I use it. I do a lot of my work at the office on my iPad because it has the same thing, and I love it.
It's quick and easy.
Yeah.
I know some people get weird about, Apple having your face stored somewhere. But there's a front camera on just about every smartphone. So
what's really cool though too is that even with glasses or even with little sunglasses, it can still work. There's a limit to that. It won't work with.
There is
big
a limit,
sunglasses.
and apparently it's a large fluffy red beard because my husband he had to retrain his Face ID after he shaved the beard. It wouldn't unlock for him. Yeah.
Well, maybe you've heard about. We've been following this story. I like when liberal media bias is outed. I think it's really important.
You call it woke busting, right?
It's woke busting, and I like that, and it's important.
Who are you going to call?
Yeah, I'm going to call woke busters. Who are you going to call? Woke buster. So this veteran editor, Uri Berliner, had come out on Barry Weiss's Free Press. Now, the story behind that story is interesting because Barry Weiss was working at the New York Times when they published a Tom Cotton. Remember that, John? A Tom Cotton op-ed that said they ought to bring the National Guard in to bring law and order, I think, to the border, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yeah. Boy, and he caught some flack for it.
Oh, my gosh. And so,
from management.
Yeah, the management came down on the editor who and Barry Weiss was, I don't think, that decision maker, but she quit. She said, I can't be a part of a news organization that doesn't allow editorial opinion, and labeled as such, it was an op-ed, to be floated and to be promulgated and shared. Well, NPR, NPR was started, in 1970, I believe, about 53, 54
Sounds
years
about
ago.
right.
Yep. And, I enjoyed over the years listening to some of their production values were good. We all remember the SNL skit with, who was the guy? The Shvetty, we won't
Don't
go
look
there.
at me. I can't help you.
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin with Shvetty. Well, that's all I need to say.
Yep.
And a funny thing. Oh, and they talk like this, and they welcome to NPR. And
it's
they just some
all
good,
things considered.
And there were some, but they used to be. While I think we knew, like most organizations, national organizations, news media, a little bit of a bias. But you think of the Cronkites of the world and the Sandy Van Okers. I remember him watching them with my grandma, and But the McNeil Lear news report, wasn't it? Did Lear die the other day? Or McNeil? One of them died the other day. But those were relative.
I think it was Lear.
George Lear. And, people, I think, could rely on
counterpoint,
and the facts being presented. And, maybe there was a little bit of a leftward drift. But NPR's gone off the rails. And, anyway, so Barry Weiss, who had resigned from the liberally corrupt New York Times, has Uri Berliner on a couple weeks ago, and he says, I don't know what's happened to NPR. Yes, there was always a liberal bent, but it wasn't vitriolic. It wasn't hostile to the Republican side. And then until Donald Trump was elected. And then he said, what was it? I read 150 interviews with Adam Schiff. He was their go-to guy. It was just, and there were like, everyone, 100% of the people there were Democrats, and 0% Republicans, right, in the newsroom and on the editorial staff. Well, okay, last March they hired this CEO who is like among the most progressive people you could ever want to look at, and after she got wind of him whistleblowing essentially on the liberal bias and how they'd gone off the rails. And remember, they're partially funded. They like to deny. What do they say? 2%, 3%, 4%. That's all we get. Well, still, that's a lot of money. I don't know how big their budget is.
Oh,
but it's
Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Yeah. That is my sticking point and has been in all the years I've been in commercial radio, is a publicly funded by your tax dollars, not-for-profit corporation that props up non-commercial radio stations.
Right. Yeah.
And NPR.
And by the way, let me take this opportunity to remind everyone that you may not need the exterior company. You may not need Pro Pumping. You may not need, the Salter Lawn Service. You may not need Eco Water Systems, Como. You may not need Mockins for. Look, now, but when you do need people that you hear on this station, on KWOS, on 93.9 The Eagle, and you hear them advertising their goods, Atterbury Auction, maybe not selling a house today, but maybe in a year you might, or buying one. Think of them, because they, not the taxpayer, are supporting the broadcasting you hear. And so
and that's why, thanks to those advertisers, that we like to say a free service of Zimmer Communications, because we don't charge you.
Absolutely. And
we don't spend your tax dollars on running this radio station.
Nope. And I would say the vast majority, if not all of our, Graff and Sons and, on and on, I could go on. Steve's Pest Control, certainly. They generally are of like mind with our ideology. By the way, we have the right, because we are not publicly funded. The only thing we have is to abide by certain FCC rules, but they don't tell us what to say or how to say it. There are a few words we can't use.
I was going to say that they do say a few things that we can't say.
Yeah, and you have to bleep John out frequently. But once in a while, no. But so Berliner had published this bombshell Free Press article, and he said there's an absence of viewpoint diversity. And in the days afterward, then, Catherine Marr, spelled like Bill Maher, but I don't think any relation, came under fire for all of her past social media posts, some of which were deeply progressive. She was essentially defending violence in the streets and, just the most vile progressive strategies and tactics. He got fired. She fired him yesterday. And he said on X, I am resigned. Well, I'm sorry. He wasn't fired. He resigned. He was suspended. Then he resigned. And here's his resignation X tweet. I'm resigning from NPR, a great American institution where I have worked for 25 years. I don't support calls to defund NPR, and those are now circulating in the legislature among GOP congressmen. I respect the integrity of my colleagues and wish for NPR to thrive, but I cannot work in a newsroom where I am disparaged by a new CEO whose divisive views confirm the very problems at NPR I cite in my free press. Now, here's what she said in an Atlantic Council, looks like a Zoom or one of those video conferences just the other day when they were talking about the First Amendment. She finds that a little bit obstructive of her ways.
The number one challenge here that we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights. And that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important, that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real market economy around it.
So if you don't agree with her progressive stance and her far left ideology, somehow, John, you're an influence peddler and you're posting stuff that only she and the good people at NPR apparently and other like them can mediate, right? They're the ones.
Well, she was, yeah.
rehab, facelift, Boone Training Center. We have some other things. I know Hannah's all excited, and I am too, because the FFA, the Missouri FFA convention here, I love seeing these young people in their blue coats, and I just love the way they're so poised and excited about what they're doing. We're going to be talking with Scott Stone at 7:35. He's your former advisor, right?
Yeah.
And the conference is here, right? The convention's here in Columbia.
Yeah, it's in Columbia.
Good. Did they move around the state year to year?
They don't. Let's see. Listener Teresa called yesterday and gave me the exact number. I wrote it down and then lost my note. I think there's been 96 state FFA conventions, and all but 3 of them have been held in Columbia.
And so we'll talk with Scott Stone. I will ask him if he, as the Centralia FFA advisor and the ag instructor there, is that right? Mm-hmm. I will ask him his feelings about grass-finished beef and wet aging. It's fair warning in case he's previewing the show. It's fair warning because, after all, we've just got done talking about fair and balanced. I learned all about mob grazing to conserve the land, and you don't have to plant stuff. But I'll ask him about that. If they'd like me to teach,
I'd like to ask him too about how many of his contemporaries and fellow FFA members plan to stay in the family farming side of things, either full or part time.
Oh, and I would be, remiss without mentioning. Of course, we already had him booked to come on, but I found out late last night that the Centralia FFA chapter was awarded the first place chapter in the state for the year.
How cool is
at
that?
State convention last night.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
You didn't know that when you booked him, right?
No.
Isn't that great?
They just got the award last night.
So we have
I
to
wouldn't
really congratulate him. Yeah, that's right, last evening. So that's beautiful. Well, we'll have to congratulate him.
It's good timing.
Yeah, maybe I'll buy him a grass-finished T-bone. Okay, Jonte Porter. Jonte Porter, who was playing for the Toronto Raptors in the NBA.
Occasionally.
He
was
stars.
is a big key word there, past tense.
Is he a bench sitter? He's been given a lifetime ban by the NBA for violating the league's gambling policy. Apparently, once he even... how could a player reduce their playing time? I thought the coach determined when they play, but apparently he reduced his playing time for one or more game.
What happened, allegedly, is that he had shared with someone that he knew that was a sports bettor that he wasn't feeling well or, had an injury, and so he probably wasn't going to be playing much. And so the bet was placed for $80,000, and Jonte Porter, knowing he was coming out of the game early, the bet was one of those, what is it, under bets, I think. I'm not as... Yeah,
or a prop bet. Yeah, one of those where they bet on things other than the outcome.
Oh.
So Jonte had basically let this guy know that he wasn't going to be playing a whole lot, and so he could bet accordingly.
Oh, like insider trading.
Yeah, to the tune of $80K.
Oh, wow.
The NBA
people think back to the Mizzou days on Jonte, and it was like, my takeaway on the whole story was, the NBA said, hey, he was out of the game and gave that information that he'd be sitting out sick. Well, gosh, remember when he tore his ACL at Mizzou? Gosh, how long was he out then?
So he played for Mizzou. He also played for Tolton.
Yeah, he
wasn't the 2-inch hail and all that we were worried about. Went a little north of us. I had a little hailstorm on my truck, but
it wasn't the inches you were expecting?
No, it was interesting. It was frightening. Have you ever sat in a car when the hail's coming down? I was in the car.
Oof. And cringing every time you hear it hit your truck.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, every time the hail hit the windshield, I was just, you sort of flinch. Very interesting. It's fascinating.
But you have a big A truck, so it should be indestructible.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, right. I don't know that the window's big A, though. I don't know. But I couldn't see any damage. So I don't know what size hail needs to be before it finally, creates the dents. But it seemed like it was, large pea size. I would call it a large pea size hail. So we've been talking about some of the things going on in the air recently with that tragic, fatal air crash the other day. John, you reported this morning that there was an emergency landing with a bird hit on a plane as well. Landed in a cornfield, but everyone's okay, right?
Yeah, the pilot, it said, was not hurt. It happened yesterday afternoon near Rennick in Randolph County up in the Moberly area, and the pilot told Sheriff's Office investigators that, he had to make an emergency landing in a field after a bird strike on the windshield. He was flying out of Decatur, Illinois, headed to Kansas City. And like Brian said, we need to check in with former Moberly City Administrator Brian Crane and see why the guy couldn't land at the Omar Bradley Airport in Moberly, because we saw the one sentence on their website said they were doing some renovation work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how high they fly. I mean, how many thousand feet are they when they're flying these planes? But do birds fly that high routinely? I just don't know. You'd think that there would be sort of a threshold ceiling for the altitude at which most birds fly, and you'd want to be higher than that. Unless maybe he was coming in for a landing at some other nearby airport or, staging a landing.
Well, we didn't have any indication of what it was, but they did say it was a small plane, which, translates into a small private plane, and they don't fly that high, up to about 10,000 feet. If you're not equipped with oxygen, that's pretty much the ceiling for private planes.
Yeah. I don't know how high birds fly, though. I don't know. Maybe Brian Hauswirth knows.
Get up there.
Yeah. How high does a bird fly, and what kind of a bird was it? Do we know?
We don't know that. I mean, that's all part of the investigation, and it's bird strikes are serious. There is no doubt about it. I mean,
sorry.
They are.
Sorry.
Because we've seen this happen before.
But then you think about Sully. What a great movie that was. I love that movie.
It was incredible how he was able. The biggest thing that people. I've been on planes, and it takes these people 2 hours to get their luggage off the plane, and how he was able. Literally, it's like they're in outer space or something getting off the plane, but he was able to get all those people out of that plane in the river immediately. That's incredible. I thought that there would be people stuck on it, and they weren't. That was amazing.
So of course, every time that you take off or you're landing, I'm shivering, I'm shuddering, I'm looking out the window. It's like, please, let's not have a buzzard fly into the engine. I just don't want to see that. Yeah. You never know.
It gets scary. Yeah, and this Hartsburg investigation is continuing. I know you, John, obviously, the Rennick thing's important too. And luckily, no one was seriously injured in that. The one in closer to Hartsburg, when I was on with Gary Nolan yesterday, we've had a couple other listeners say it before, and I've heard from, again, more yesterday during Gary's show. Some people believe the type of plane that was used in that plane that crashed near Hartsburg has issues, that it's dangerous, basically.
Why? I mean, I don't know. Is that legend among private,
It depends on
pilots?
Who, John's heard different from other people, but again, ultimately, it's going to be up to the NTSB. I actually have reached out to them to ask them that very question, and they're limited in what they can say. They're going to be back there today on scene. Might even be back tomorrow.
Yeah, you had me jump on the internet, start hunting around after we took, and I found one that said since it's came to market in 1983, the Piper Malibu and derivatives have been involved in 12 crashes in which the airplane came apart in midair, killing everyone on board.
That's right.
That kind of points to what Brian was saying the other day.
Yeah, it is. And again, that's out there, and whether or not that was the case here, we'll find out. But it's certainly something to look at. The other thing, we had a caller yesterday on Gary Nolan's show that mentioned, we had a tornado watch at the time of this. In Columbia, it depends on where you're at. In Columbia, we did get some heavy rain, but this gentleman that called in said right before the plane crashed, the Ashland-Hartsburg area had pea-sized hail. It was coming down very hard. Now, did that have anything to do with, again, they'll look at weather, but NTSB will be back there today.
Yeah. In other regional and local news, a big thing going on at the Memorial Stadium that houses Faroe Field.
That's right.
Hannah reminded me.
There you go.
I don't know. When I go to a stadium, I think of one entity. I don't think of a field within a stadium. There's whatever. That's my bad. I apologize.
In Auburn, for instance, Jordan Hare Stadium, and people call it Pat Dye Field. In this case, it's Faroe Field.
Faroe Field
at Memorial Stadium.
Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, either one work.
Big announcement, big facelift going on, big renovations.
President Choi, I've talked to President Choi about several things. I was with him when the governor signed the NIL bill. I was with Eli Drinkwitz at the countdown to kickoff, and they've been all excited about the football team. What has happened since then, since the NIL, and since I saw both of them, is back in February, Mizzou announced this was Desiree Reed-Francois, by the way, that made the announcement, a $62 million donation to fund major renovations to Memorial Stadium and to support the Tiger Fund program. We didn't have a lot of details at that time because first of all, the donor wishes to remain anonymous. A lot of people have asked me who the donor is. I don't know. I really don't. I doubt many people would know who that person is. I've asked a lot of people. But what they're saying, the university, Coach Drinkwitz, President Choi, Robin Winokur, who listens to this show, Bob Blitz, the athletic director, the interim athletic director, Marcy Girton, they are going to be they're meeting in Rolla today, the curators, and this was already scheduled to be They rotate their meetings around the state among the 4 campuses. They're in Rolla today. What the school is saying is that they are going to, they're calling it important developments regarding the stadium project, significant changes to the north end zone. What those include, we'll find out today, stadium-wide improvements, and then repairs. Keep in mind, this stadium was built in 1926. Ooh, 1926. Ooh. My father, who's almost 80, was in a marching band at University City High School in 1961 and performed in there. It's essentially the same stadium. It was built when Calvin Coolidge was the president. Now, they have put money into it, and they've made huge improvements under Mike Alden and Jim Sturk and other athletic directors. But this, I think, is going to be big. What exactly it is, though, they're going to keep it close to the vest, and we'll find out today. Ballpark around noon, but I think it is a big deal.
So developments is the way they're pitching it. Major development.
Important developments. Important developments regarding the Memorial Stadium Improvement Project.
I guess you call
Get it right, Randy.
I guess you call that an academic tease. Important developments.
President Choi probably, as we speak, in a sedan heading to Rolla, and I'm sure he's having a chuckle right now.
Important.
But it is.
Is important major? Maybe not. Is there a distinction between important and major?
My gut feeling is it's going to be significant. That's my gut. That's my gut feeling.
But when was that money donated?
It was donated in February. And keep in mind, this is a person, we don't know who it is.
How many bucks?
$62 million.
Only Gary Nolan could afford that.
That is the largest donation ever in Mizzou.
Might have to sell a gun or two, but yeah.
Well, I mean, he's always eating at steak places and stuff. He doesn't go to Steak and Shake and Golden Corral like the rest of us. He's eating over at CC's all the time.
He's doing better than the rest of us,
and it's a great place. I love CC's too.
It is, yeah, exactly. But I've had a lot of people ask me who this donor is, and I'm not going to speculate.
That's good.
But they want to remain anonymous.
That's sort of a biblical philosophy, right? Stay anonymous.
Yeah, they are, and I found in my life that a lot of people who have the most money are people that you don't really necessarily think have it. Yeah. I can tell you in rural Missouri, there's a lot of millionaires. I would have had no idea, but a
lot of generous people just keep it quiet.
It is a huge deal, and it's a big donation, and fans are excited about it. And Coach Drinkwitz is heading to Rolla to speak. So when the coach of the University of Missouri heads to a curators meeting, It's a big deal. He's going to speak at the press conference.
Maybe they could put a big jumbotron with spaces for NIL ads, so that if you're out there playing, you're the quarterback, you're the tight end, or whatever, you can see your name, image, and likeness up there. And meanwhile, you're getting millions of bucks, and the sponsors get. I'm thinking maybe that I should pitch that. Maybe that's the important development. We'll see. I don't know. Okay. In other news.
I can see the Randy Tobler NIL hot spicy chips.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be the name and non-image and non-likeness. We get a lot of non-likeness on the text here. Okay, so we're going to be talking tomorrow. We hope a little bit more. I'm going to try to see if Sheriff Carey can come on about the Boone Training Center. I know we're talking about that as well, right?
I think this is a big deal, and I would have been there yesterday, but we had so much going on with the plane crash, and they had a lot of crew members down at the plane crash, but they had the announcement. I'll have that up on the website after 8 o'clock, but they are going to build a regional, I think this is a very important word here to add, regional law enforcement training center in Columbia. And Kip Kendrick said it. I mean, and Sheriff Carey, too. It's going to allow the sheriff's office to expand exceptional law enforcement training to partners statewide. They haven't had a permanent training site. Lots of facilities in there, and this will allow training for law enforcement.
It's going to be statewide. That was an interesting part. I thought maybe this is a statewide facility. That's a state of the art deal.
I thought it was interesting. They talked about very seriously, and I think it's part of the plan to have staff in-house daycare available there.
Mm-hmm. They could. Justin Aldred talked about at the Ready meeting I was at last week. They are looking at that and could potentially expand that. They want to see how that goes.
For all our legislators. Google does it. The hospital up in Memphis, Missouri, called Scotland County Hospital does it. Mm-hmm. The Boone Training Center does it. I think it's best when private organizations provide the daycare. I don't know that should be a state government function. I keep looking for that. I keep trying to do my Ouija board and connect with George Washington and John Adams and all of the founding fathers, and I just can't see where government has a role in having some people pay for the care of other people's kids. I don't understand.
The alternative, though, Randy, is if they don't get the health care or they don't get the child care, they
maybe
may not
stay
be able
home
to,
and work.
They may not be able. They may not be able to work.
I've had more than one woman tell me this in the last week because I've opened this conversation. They say, you know what? I think it's best if a gal can stay home with her children or the guy at home with their children and let the other person go to work, and then when the kids go to school, you go to work. I've had more women tell me this, not men, but that's just me. Hey, by the way, we've got a I-70s closed at mile marker 95 going eastbound. And
92. It's backed up,
wow. Yeah, Jake tells us that. So we've got some problems going eastbound, I-70 shut down at mile marker 92.
That should be around the Booneville area.
Yeah, okay. So, be alert to that. All right, guys, when we come back, it's time for What's Hot with Hannah. And at 7:35, Hannah's Farmer Centralia Ag producer extraordinaire and up for your vote on Best of Columbia. Make sure you do that at InsideColumbia.net. What's up, Hannah?
Yeah, and while you're there, you can vote for Wake Up in Missouri.
Not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
It's a twofer.
In case you guys are sick of hearing about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
We haven't talked about them for a while.
Yeah, not really in depth since football season.
Right.
So you guys have gotten a break. I don't want to hear any whining on the texter at 874-9390.
Look at that. She says no whining, and then she gives the number. She wants you to whine. Go ahead, whine. Go ahead, whine.
Us to whine.
But Travis and Taylor, of course, were spotted at Coachella this week, which is a big hippy-dippy music festival. But they're also making headlines individually this week. Of course, we are gearing up. I know that John is on pins and needles because tonight at midnight, Taylor Swift is releasing a brand new album called The Tortured Poets Department. That comes out at midnight tonight, and it is the 11th album that she has done, Miss T Swift.
Is this the one she pitched at the Grammys when she got her award? Okay.
Yeah, folks were thinking she was remaking one of her old albums, but really she's releasing brand new stuff. Travis is also making headlines in his own right because he's going to be hosting a new game show. And I think he's going to be so good at this. I think this is right up his alley. It is a spin-off of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yep.
It's going to be on Amazon Prime. And the show is titled, Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity? So
remember Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? That was Jeff Foxworthy back in the day.
Oh.
Yes, and that Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader was on Fox, and it debuted in 2007. So a little bit of a throwback.
Wow.
But yeah, this is coming soon for Travis Kelce. So I'm excited for him.
So being around an entertainer extraordinaire, right? He wants to, I mean, he's already got a fair amount of flair when it comes to his entertainment, chops. But, I'm sure being around that, it rubs off on you, right? You want to entertain.
You know how Steve Harvey is kind of known for his fancy suits?
Yeah.
When he hosts Family Feud or his daytime talk show. I have a feeling that Travis's fashion is going to be on full display for this as well. He's kind of known for his fashion sense.
Oh, yeah. T-Rav rocks the catwalk, doesn't he?
He does. So I'm excited. The release date hasn't been dropped, but I will probably at least watch the first episode of this show. Just support Travis because, he needs the money.
It's on, yeah, right. It's on what platform again?
Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime.
Yep.
All right. Well, that'll be fun.
Pretty cool.
Wonder if he'll get joins us here in just a second. Brian Hauswirth reporting on a big problem out on I-70.
Yeah, we rely on our listeners a lot for this, so thanks for the text to Hannah and Randy on this. I just got off the phone with the Missouri State Highway Patrol. So it's not the Boonville area, folks, that this crash is in. It's I-70, mile marker 96. The eastbound driving lane has just reopened. A tractor trailer or two, we're not sure, has crashed near Blackwater, not far from Boonville. The I-70 mile marker. Traffic, obviously, is a mess. Avoid the area if you can.
Okay, good. Thanks for that update. Joining us now, Scott Stone, who is the advisor for the Centralia FFA. Did I get that right, Scott?
You sure did.
Okay.
I'm one of the advisors. There's actually three of us.
Okay, I called you the director, the advisor. I don't think I've called you.
I think it was different every time.
I don't think I've called you the. I don't think I've called you the Grand Poobah yet, but whatever. Okay. So I've talked a lot about how being a guy from St. Louis, a city guy originally, and then up to Memphis, Missouri for 16, 17 years. I got to know the FFA being on the school board there, and I was so impressed with not just the ag aspect of the FFA, but the poise and the public speaking that those young'uns are taught. It's quite an organization.
Our goal with the FFA, as you said, in agriculture education is to grow students into leaders, whether they choose to be involved in the agriculture industry or choose another option for their career. But we want them to have the skills that they need to make them successful in life, regardless of what walk they take.
And I know that you, would you like to, I know that one of the things that really, I think, separates our show from the others is our transparency and our authenticity. Like, the time I put DEF in my diesel tank. I guess you don't teach that at FFA. But would you like to share any of your, any stories about Hannah, the producer, and when you were her advisor? I'm just saying. Did she ever, bake brownies with, half a teaspoon of stuff like Adam Schwadron got in St. Louis County?
No.
He's, was there anything that you'd like to share with us? Or was she an exemplary model student that still, her image is still up on the FFA bulletin board?
Actually, there still is a picture up on the wall.
Oh, no. Is there really?
She was on our Ag Issues team, and they did quite well her year that they was on it, and they got us a picture, and they signed it, so it is up on the wall in the Ag building. But, the really neat thing about Hannah was one of those students who came to us, wasn't sure she wanted to, pursue a career in agriculture, but she wanted to see what opportunities we had, and she grabbed a hold of every one of those opportunities. Like I said, she was on contest teams. She did public speaking events, and, kind of grew her interest in a lot of different areas. And I'd like to say we played a small part in making her producer, Hannah.
Oh, for sure. No, I like to lovingly say that my best friend at the time, Sarah, also slightly forced me there. And then I had a good time once I got there. But yesterday we had a listener call into the studio because we had mentioned that there were going to be FFA competitions happening this week in Columbia at State FFA Convention. And the listener was asking what types of contest teams there are available for students, because it's way more than just livestock judging. So could you, I know we don't have time to name all of the contest teams, but sort of give a summation of what we got.
Yes, as Hannah said, there's a broad spectrum. We have leadership development events where students learn skills like parliamentary procedure or public speaking or extemporaneous speaking. And then we also have what's called career development events where students dive into different career opportunities. One is poultry evaluation, where the students learn all about the poultry industry. One of the newest contests we have in Missouri is about food science, and it's about developing new food products and testing food products, and they have to do a group presentation and market a food product. So they kind of span a wide range, nursery landscaping, where students learn about different plants that are used in landscaping, all the way to ag mechanics, a traditional one that we've done where students learn about welding and concrete and plumbing. So we have a wide range, and we're trying to prepare students in these competitions for all career areas that they could possibly explore. They kind of find out what they like, and they find out what they don't like. My daughter did poultry judging, and she was not fond of the chickens.
Kind of like me with dairy cattle judging, right?
Yes. You found out that was not what you wanted to do for the rest of your life, right?
Yes.
Scott, in terms of, you just look at this convention in Columbia. I was at a grocery store last night in Columbia, and there were dozens and dozens of students, Herman, McDonald County, from all over the state I saw, but a lot from Herman that were already in town wearing their blue jackets. Jerry Litton, I looked at some pictures last night. He was the head of the Missouri FFA in 1955, actually National FFA, later became a congressman, died in a terrible plane crash. I just think about all the people who've come through, and there's a young man, Hannah and I have both reported on this. He is from, he's a senior at Mizzou. He's going to be there at Hearns today and tomorrow. Grant Norfleet, just up the road from you, mid-Missouri's Mexico and Audrain County. The Norfleet family, very well known in agriculture. He is the secretary of the National FFA organization. What kind of doors could potentially open up for a young man like that, being really a high officer in this organization nationally?
You're right. Grant is a phenomenal individual. And, the connections that Grant is going to make over the course of this next year, whether it's, I know he was at the pardoning of the Thanksgiving turkey at the White House. You make those connections and you meet people that later in life can take you to a lot of different places and open a lot of different doors. Grant has a unique opportunity to make a huge impact on FFA members across the country throughout this year, but also to make connections with individuals in the agriculture industry and a lot of other industries to make a positive change. Grant's always been a positive advocate for agriculture, talking about its importance and why career and technical education is important to our students. So we're glad that he's on that national stage and promoting that for not just Missouri, but the entire country.
You're listening to Scott Stone. He's the advisor of the Centralia group, which we understand won a prize, the Missouri FFA group.
Not just any award or any prize.
What are you now, Scott? You were wearing the hat and
top chapter.
The top
in
chapter
the state
in all
of
the
Missouri.
state. Okay, all right. Hey, congratulations on that, John. You had a question for Scott.
Yeah, Scott. What are you hearing from the kids in FFA and especially in Centralia about? We hear so much about non-traditional, ag degrees, kids going into ag business and all. What do you hear from the kids about staying in traditional agriculture, hanging on to the family farm, and at least doing that part-time?
That's a great question, and it's a question that we explore a lot in our ag classes. It's becoming harder and harder for an individual who doesn't come from a family farm or doesn't come from a farming background to get the capital to buy land and buy the equipment. It's becoming extremely expensive. So the students who, have that opportunity, they're very fortunate that they can go back and return to the family farm. We're also, as you mentioned, you're seeing a lot of people where, farming used to be a full-time career for a lot of people. Now a lot of people have dual careers where they work a job and then go home and farm in the evening. Agriculture, when it gets in your blood, it's one of those things that runs deep. It's something we're very passionate about. So a lot of the young people want to return to the family farm. They want to continue to produce the food and the fiber that we need in our country, but also that we send around the world. So they're very optimistic about their opportunities, but, there's a lot of challenges and hurdles, whether it's the financing. And the other thing is the average age of the farmer in America is getting older and older, and we're starting to see those people want to retire and do other things. So if you can make those connections earlier with those farmers, maybe they allow you to rent their land or, become a part and buy in over time. So we're looking at a lot of different opportunities to help our students be able to return to the farm and be involved in production agriculture.
Yeah. Scott, as part of the judging process, when your group won the best chapter in Missouri, I mean, that's quite an award. One of the metrics that they look at is excellence and competency in raising grass-finished and wet aging of
Randy.
beef. I'm just wondering, is that one of the metrics that's required to win that prestigious award?
That is not one of the metrics that they use. But I will tell you, as a beef producer, there's room for all of us in agriculture. And as I tell my kids on a daily basis in class, our job in agriculture is to produce products that consumers want. And whether that's grass-fed beef, because I know there's people out there that want that.
Not very many, but there's some.
Or organic beef, or grain-fed beef. There's a place for all of us in this industry. And one of the things we cannot do is fight with each other about who is better or which method is better. We have to be able to provide a product that consumers want.
I feel like you're throwing a little bit of shade at me and Randy and our little argument over this that we've had going for several months.
Randy's a yellow fat guy.
Yeah. I'm just channeling my wife because she claims that if the grass finished only has a healthier fat component to it. That's all. But I don't know. But no matter where we go, we're eating wherever the beef is. We love beef and however it's raised. Hey, thanks a lot for being with us. And would you please congratulate all of your students and all of the folks that you run across in the FFA realm there in the convention today. How long does that run in Missouri?
The convention will run through tomorrow night.
Okay, beautiful. Hey, well, thank you very much for being with us. Thanks for all you do for the kids and for future agriculture as well as future non-agriculture, but leaders through the FFA program. Scott Stone, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your support.
All righty. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? They don't just teach agriculture. It's about being a great citizen, a great leader, and boy, I've seen that in action. It's pretty cool.
Lots of soft skills, which of course is, I don't know, is that a newer term? Maybe not, but
soft skills.
Yeah, your soft skills. So things that you can use as an adult in things like job interviews.
Through the whole interview, I got this picture in my head of Hannah in high school channeling Napoleon Dynamite doing the the mason jars of milk sampling competition.
Someone asked, Ron asked, and we didn't get a chance to ask Scott this, but are they still teaching parliamentary procedures? Hannah, you know the answer to that.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
That's a contest team, yep.
That's really cool. Well, I guess we may have some future legislators coming out of that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hey, when we come back, John, what's happening?
says people sometimes leave behind far more unusual items. Their latest list of the oddest things riders forgot in the last year includes a toupee, a live turtle, and a panic button. They say one guy left a bottle of hot sauce and a breathalyzer, another 2 containers with spiders in them, a Beyonce fold-up fan, a jar of oysters, police handcuffs, one guy waist beads and a burrito steamer, another rider a furry foxtail and a spear, a fake butt, a complete Jeep Liberty engine, and a framed Taylor Swift autograph.
Oh.
The most absent-minded passengers, riders in Miami, and the worst time for people to forget their personal stuff, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Prompts the question, did you hear Santa is becoming an Uber driver in the off months to make extra money? His ride is $9. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, and now you know the rest of that story.
Oh, whoa, whoa. Did you say
they can't all be winners?
Did you say a fake butt?
A fake butt. And a WWE championship belt.
What are the fake butt? Maybe that was someone going home from the social of the Colorectal Surgeon Society of America. I don't know.
Just been chewed out at work, perhaps.
Could be. Hey, you think about that, and have you ever left anything like that? I've left things. One time, I almost stepped off of the plane before I remembered that it wasn't an Uber event, but I left something in the pocket in front of me, But I think, like, once you leave the plane, you're in trouble. Wonder what happens if you leave something on an Uber. How do you recover it? Are you pretty much out of luck?
I think you get a hold of the company, and then they pursue it for you. But, yeah, who knows how in luck you would be if you leave something like your high dollar sunglasses in the back seat of an Uber, and he picks up a few more passengers in between.
What a great... You talk about a great advancement in entrepreneurship, I mean, the whole development of the rideshare thing like that. It was great. And then, of course, sometimes if you don't mind sharing a ride and stopping a couple other places, you're not in a big hurry, you can save some bucks. I mean, there's a lot of innovation in that space. How long has it been around? 20 years? How old is Uber and Lyft and that whole industry?
Probably pushing that long, isn't it?
It's sort of pushed the taxi industry too, right? By providing competition,
boy.
you see the prices moderating a little bit.
Some markets run them out of competition.
Uber was founded in 2009.
So only 15 years old. Wow, I didn't realize that. It's quite an innovation. And who was it that took a driverless? Was it Stephanie that had a driverless Uber? Was it like one of the show team? I think it was Stephanie.
It would be. Who else would it be?
Yeah, the rest of us don't really get out much.
Maybe maybe it was Jen or Ashley. I don't know, but I thought, wow, I don't know that if I'm getting into a driverless anything. I don't care. I don't
know. I might trust it more than some random person you've never met before.
Really? I don't know. I like the Uber drivers. They're good. They're generally really good. They always have nice cars too. Are they their own cars or do they rent them from Uber? How does that work?
Their own.
They're their own cars.
And there's a lot of sticky situations you get into with your car insurance provider.
I wondered about that.
If you're on the clock for a ride sharing program and you get into an accident, a lot of times your insurance policy won't cover it.
Huh. Because on a private policy, you'd have to have some kind of a business.
Yeah, some kind of rider.
Of a rider, yeah. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Look at John.
Oh,
John,
man.
I'm telling you. That's why we moved this spot to 745, 750. So John's really on the top of his game there. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Really love that. I haven't had a chance to talk about it. We'll talk about it in the morning bell, but the economic winds are blowing funny. State revenues are down. Are projected to be down. And I don't know, there may be a number of reasons for that, but, nationally, inflation keeps rearing its ugly head. Jerome Powell said they may delay cuts until next year, just the other day. So we're going to talk with Travis Fitzwater.
somewhat similar.
Yeah,
so,
man, I'm sorry. I got it mixed up there. I was up too late last night. My bad.
It's okay. Nobody knows who I am. It's fine.
All right. Well, we know who you are. And yeah. Okay. Well, let's take what we wanted to talk with you about today was this SB 727 and where we're going with that.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the House, I mean, they just went in session. I don't know. I assume what we've been told is they're going to take up 727 and TFP it, which means truly agree and finally pass it, which means that both sides agree on the language and then put it on the governor's desk. And then after that, they'll take up this virtual school bill that we just finished yesterday that had a couple tweaks to that, to the 727 that should remove some of the concerns people had, the low-level concerns people had with some of the homeschool language.
John Marsh, I know you had some thoughts about this issue and where things are going with it.
Well, Travis, talk to us a little bit more about the tax credits. I think there's some confusion about that surrounding that part of the bill.
The ESAs will expand. Right now you have to go through an education organization for the current ESA. We already have the ESA program on the books, but it's for low-income folks that are approved through the Treasurer's Office under education. I think it's an EAO is what they call them. And so you can get people can fund those organizations and then apply for a tax credit under our current law. Under this one, it will expand it to individuals can have access to education savings accounts, which means basically you put money into your education and you can get some of your tax money back in the form of a tax credit for approved expenses.
Well, I want to ask you something though about some of the organizations that are concerned about, that are wanting to restore as much power to parents to send their kids where they want to go, are saying that some of the provisions within this statute, it's a big bill, there's too many strings attached, that in terms of homeschooling and others. And I don't know whether these are just sort of over-interpretations of some of the potential restrictions or not. Now, on the other hand, it could be argued that if you're going to take state money or have any kind of thing like that, well, there's going to be strings attached. How do you answer some of those potential criticisms?
Well, first of all, we homeschool our daughters. So, I was intricately involved in the language writing. Andrew Koenig, who's the Senate sponsor, homeschools his children. So he was obviously very, very involved in making sure that homeschoolers were protected on this bill. We took a lot of effort to ensure that homeschoolers will be protected going forward. We have one of the best homeschooling laws in the country, and we're all the homeschoolers among us are very proud of that. And basically, what we did with this bill is we just transferred the current homeschool language into the current statute that we're changing. Not the current statute, but we're taking the current statute that's in law today, and we're moving that into the section where we talk about these ESA programs. But we're keeping the homeschool laws basically unchanged. But we are removing some things that are actually onerous to homeschoolers. So we're actually making the homeschool law stronger under Senate Bill 727 and the modifications that are coming from the virtual school bill that Representative Krista Finelli is hopefully going to finish today, sometime this morning in the House. So I just don't subscribe to the idea that we're doing things that are going to hurt homeschoolers, because we've basically taken our homeschool law and we've just made it stronger.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know, because, I think a lot of times there's, in the name of trying to defend conservative principles and advance them as much as we can with, of course, the powerful majority, sometimes I think conservative organizations, aren't happy with very much better and even maybe misportray what is best. And that's why I wanted to have you comment on that, because I've looked at the bill and I didn't see things that worried me. I saw nothing but advantage there. I'm still unhappy that we're not to vouchers. I still say that. I say that to you. I said it to Lincoln Huff. I'll say it to Bill Eigel. I'll say it to everyone. I don't know why we can't get vouchers. Why can't we go where Iowa has gone and where Arizona's gone? I don't understand. I guess it's just an incremental thing we have to depend on, right?
Yeah, Missouri, every state's its own little experiment, and we're getting incremental changes to that I think are good. We got to take the wins when we have them, and to give parents more choice. I'm just in on about any opportunity to do that in a way that protects our public schools, but also fights for parents and their ability to educate their kids how they see fit.
We're talking with Vice Chair of the Commerce, Consumer Protection, Energy, and Environment Committee, State Senator Travis Fitzwater, this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Randy, thank you so much. I can answer your question by the way you asked the senator why we don't have vouchers. Teachers union, the NEA and the teachers unions don't want it, and they have clout at the Capitol, even with Republican lawmakers. That's very obvious. Senator, I want to change topics. You have filed a bill. You file it every year, and it's interesting because you always get bipartisan criticism of this bill. It's Senate. You know what I'm
said of a couple different things, Brian. I
understand. Senate Joint Resolution 70 to basically reduce the members of the House from 163 to 102. When I reported that back in February, you were looking at my Twitter feed, and boy, Don Roan, a member of your own party, former lawmaker from Portageville, hammered you and said you've never did this. And a friend of yours, he just disagrees. Yeah. But the point is, you've taken criticism from both parties. The bill got a hearing. It's been stuck in committee since February. Is that bill dead?
Yeah, I would say it is for this year, yes. And Don Roan, let me speak to that. He's always been a buddy, but as soon as I got to the Senate, he lost all respect for me. So, I think he's always had a love-hate relationship with the Senate, and I love that guy. He and I got along really well, and his son is actually a farm assistant, so we shared a lot of concerns over our healthcare system and a lot of things going on in state government, and so think very highly of Don. He was just wrong about that. I did file it while I was a House member, and I think it's an important concern. You know, today I had former Senator John Lamping tweet me early in the morning, and tweet at me or X me or whatever they call it now, that we should shorten the session. That's probably another thing we ought to consider is we've got way too much time to figure out ways to mess with each other up here. Maybe we ought to shorten the session and reduce the size of the legislature. I think these are all good arguments. But you've also got to convince 100 people that it's the right thing to do. And I'm just not there yet.
Well, that is interesting. And in fairness to you, and I did tweet it back at Don Roan because he had said you never filed this when you were a member of the House. And as you just said, I've reported on it. You actually filed the same bill that's you filed as a senator, as a House member. It died there, too, because of opposition from both parties. So, Senator, thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Travis, to follow up a little bit on the bill, it wasn't only to reduce the size of the House, but a big thing that you've talked about is the whole term limits angle in this bill.
Yeah, I think 8 years is really restrictive as far, I feel like this is my experience in the House was by the time you're in year 5 or 6, you finally figure out, you kind of get your feet underneath you. You know the relationships you need to move the needle. You know what department bureaucrats you need to fight or not fight, and the people that can help you and not help you. And so you get maybe 2 or 3 more years, and then you're kicked out. And I think it's not bad to have term limits. I actually support very strongly term limits, but having some change where you have maybe a combination of 16 years or 16 years total of service between the House and Senate feels like it would be a nominal change, but a way if House members want to be in the House for 12 years, that probably benefits the states having institutional knowledge in elected office, because I think your first couple of years, you're just so green, it's hard to wrap your mind around this process. And it would be helpful. I think it really empowers lobbyists and bureaucrats in the Capitol, because they're the ones that can stick around. They know the ins and outs. They know how to finagle the system. And when you're new to it, it's very, very hard to see which levers are being pulled behind the scenes. So I think, it'd be good for Missourians for their legislators to have a little bit more institutional knowledge.
We're talking with Travis Fitzwater, and we've been talking this morning because you are Senator Fitzwater, the chair of the Transportation, Infrastructure, and Public Safety Committee, and we've been talking about this fabulous new law enforcement facility that's going to be going up in Boone County. Mm-hmm. Was there some interaction with your committee, or what are your thoughts about that as far as being a real advance? I understand even for statewide access for law enforcement training.
Yeah, that's an incredible thing. Really excited about that. Obviously, we have some real law enforcement issues in the state of Missouri, but I think that's really a product of Caleb Rowden and his leadership, and Kip Kendrick and some of the folks that are in Boone County that have fought for that piece. I know Kip always worked on that as a House member, and Caleb certainly was a big reason why there was some funding from the state. The transportation committee that I've chaired for just over a year and a half, or near a year and a half now, really didn't have an impact on that. I would love to take credit for it, but those are folks that saw that huge need and created. I'm happy to have supported it in the budgets, but that's going to be a good thing. St. Louis, Kansas City, obviously are big issues. St. Louis, the region, is half of our state's economy. So we need law enforcement folks that can go out there and do the job. Like, that's a whole different discussion, but St. Louis is a real problem. And so the more folks we can train to be that are going to fight for us and our freedoms, the better.
Think you get the budget done before Governor calls a special session on it, Travis?
That's a great question. I think, the only thing that we had really constitutionally required to do as legislators is pass a balanced budget. So I think we've got to do whatever we need to do to make sure we get that done before the end of session. I don't think there's any reason whatsoever to go to a special session. It would be on our part a lack of effort or a lack of the fortitude to just move through disagreements and get something accomplished that Missourians expect us to come down here and do at a very minimum. So I think every effort's going to be expended to make sure we're not going into special session. I would prefer not to do that. I think it's an incredible waste of taxpayer monies. Yeah. When we have 4 weeks left to get this done, we can move pretty quickly. We can get that accomplished. And whether people like the budget or not, I think we can get it done and not cost the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars for a special session.
Yeah, it seems like it all hinges on that FRA, right? Because that could put a big hole in it if that doesn't pass. What, $4 or $5 billion?
I think that's another thing that just has to get done. And I think the train's on the track, right? Like it's coming down the pike. You're not stopping it. You have to get an FRA done. You have to get a budget done. Those are two things that actually have to happen. So I think they get done in some form or fashion. And I think the worst case scenario is that they get done in a special session. Yeah. I just think, we have all this time. We need to get it done while we're here.
All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you being with us. Sorry for the temporary return to the house this morning. There's just an awful lot going on, and the frenzy sometimes gets me confused, so I apologize for that.
Oh, you're fine, Randy. No worries at all.
Senator Travis Fitzwater, and I'm sorry, I like that bill that keeps getting put down. I think that's a brilliant bill. When you explained that to me at the governor's breakfast session, I thought, wow, that makes so much sense, which is probably why it hasn't passed.
and sought that greater confidence so as not to overreact to the string of low inflation readings that we had in the second half of last year. The recent data have clearly not given us greater confidence and instead indicate that it's likely to take longer than expected to achieve that confidence.
Well, what was hoped to be some Fed rate easing, mortgage rate easing, credit card rate easing as a result, as early as just in a month or two, is not likely to happen now. Analysts are saying till next year, based on that comment from Jerome Powell. That's been playing with the markets, and yesterday was not a big day either way, relatively unchanged for the Dow Jones and S&P. However, this morning in the pre-market changes, it looks like there might be a little upside potential, so we'll have to see where that goes. I mean, we've had a series of, just some vacillating around negativity. The futures are up, though, about 115 points for the Dow Jones. The S&P 500 about 9.5 points, and the NASDAQ up 15 as well. Oil is predicted to potentially go up and up and up. It's up to $83 after a little bit of an ebb over the past week or two. But with all the tensions in the Middle East, we are looking at, I think, some turbulence in the gas tank as you fill it up. Well, let's say turbulence in your wallet as you fill it up. Coming this spring and summer and beyond.
Like even worse than what we have now?
Even worse than what we have now. Ugh. Yeah. So we'll have to see where it goes. Now, in other news, it was just interesting. You found this interesting story, Hannah, about Tesla and how they laid off employees overnight by email.
I was going to say, my heart kind of broke for these Tesla employees. They got a middle of the night email saying, hey, basically, you've been laid off.
Yeah, they announced mass layoffs on top of a top executive at Tesla announcing his resignation just a couple of days ago on Monday. And just out of the blue, they laid me off, said one guy, Bradley Olson. He used to work on the Model Y at the Gigafactory in Texas. Got the email. He had straight up panic, Wow.
Some people didn't see the email and found out when their key cards didn't work to get into the building the next day.
Man, I tell you.
Ouch.
Right.
And you wonder why employees aren't loyal to employers. I mean, that equation has changed. No more gold watches going around, are there, John?
Yeah, and they said there were some
I hope she's back with wearing her red, with full of great stories, right? And there'll be a lot of fun that she'll share with I'm sure, about the keynote speaker and other folks she saw there.
Yeah, and Randy, you added to your red wardrobe this week, right?
I did,
so
yeah.
I expect to see red.
I had an anonymous donor named producer Hannah who came in with
very anonymous.
A red sweater. She got me a red T-shirt, so that's good. Now I'm looking I-70.
It's that same area.
Crash. One tractor rolled over in the median. Okay, so that's that tractor that's got things blocked up. Well, it was blocked up on eastbound.
Yeah, eastbound I-70 around the 95-mile marker. But it sounds like it's kind of backing things up. So
yeah, still backing up. Yeah, so back up eastbound, backing up to Midway. So we wanted to remind you that the Trump jury selection is continuing. Of course, there will be more news, of course, because every time Donald Trump walks into or out of a courtroom, he has something to say. And he's really relegated to doing local campaigning, as we saw him in the bodega area the other day talking to folks there who were, you talk about an animated group. The kids were yelling, the adults, Trump, 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 Trump. So we'll have to see how long it's going to take him off of the national stump, but he's certainly doing a lot of politicking around that trial. They have yet another, 5 regular jurors and another, 6, I think they want for backup. So the judge hopes to have that done by tomorrow. And then after that, I guess the trial will begin. It'll be interesting to see where that happens. We're watching Mike Johnson, who continues to be under siege, as he announced the plans, if he can get the rules changed to allow a package to come to the floor in the U.S. House with different aid packages for Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan. And then separately, he has told his caucus he wants to offer a border bill. Very, very critical. He is getting a lot of criticism because he will not address that as a priority. I think that's because he knows it's not going to go anywhere. He must have some knowledge that it's not going to happen. Maybe he's cutting some deals behind the scenes.
Well, I don't know. He's got that kind of tiny razor's edge majority where he can't afford to lose more than one vote.
Right. And now Congressman Gallagher, who was going to leave before his term's up on the 19th. I think he's talking about maybe extending his stay a little bit more to help with the majority. But I think that's because he wants to see some aid for Ukraine and others. There is news coming from across the pond that, in fact, Ukraine is under a lot of assault and Putin is advancing again. And so those who say that this is just a first step on Putin's further assault on Eastern Europe are saying, hey, we've got to get behind them. Others say, forget about it. Don't get involved in foreign entanglements, to channel George Washington. Don't know where it's all going to go. But those are the national stories we're focusing on. Locally, we've talked about Jonte Porter, right?
Yeah.
And how he's banned from the NBA.
For life.
For life. Wow.
Yeah, this story came out yesterday, and Hauswirth and I, our desks are near Cousin Andy from one of our sister stations. Yeah, he is a sports guy, and so we got the chance to talk to him about it yesterday. Basically, it sounds like Jonte knew he wasn't going to be getting a lot of playing time in a game, disclosed that information to a friend or someone he knew that then bet $80,000 on the game. And, of course, when Jonte came out of the game early, the bet went in that guy's favor. And so the NBA did an investigation, and they found him guilty in those allegations.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just a sad
shame.
situation.
He'll be playing in Greece.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
Graduated from Tolton and played at Mizzou, and I guess was having a lot of bench time with the Toronto Raptors.
Banged up at Mizzou. He's been banged up in the NBA too.
Yeah. And his brother's with the Nuggets.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah, they both went to Tolton, and they're very close. I know both of them with Father Mike Coleman, who is at the Holy Spirit Church in Centralia, used to be in Columbia, and of course in Jefferson City before that. Both of them very, very tight. But yeah, I mean, it just, what Hannah said speaks for itself. Just a sad situation, but you can't do that though.
No,
you just can't.
No, they frown upon that apparently.
Yeah, Yeah.
There's a sports.
I'm not going to pile on, but you just can't do that.
There's IPs working their way through. There was an article the other day, I forget, was it the Independent or the Missouri, about how various groups either are more or less optimistic about the number of signatures, whether it's the abortion thing, whether it's I'm not sure that they're getting the signatures they want. I think the decline to sign movement is pretty strong, and I think that word's getting out there. And I hope it does. But there's also a sports betting thing, right? And that's backed by the Cardinals, right? And others.
In the bill, there's several bills that are still out there. They're probably dead. Next time we have either Caleb Rowden or Denny Hoskins on, we can certainly ask either one of them. And those two, by the way, don't get along. And it's about other issues too, but they don't see eye on gambling. I think if it's going to pass at all, it's probably going to have to be through a ballot measure. And I don't know if they'll get the signatures or not. But it really boils down to the controversy is about the slot machines in these gas stations. And Senator Hoskins is saying those things should be legalized, that the Veterans Commission needs a funding source. But the opponents that say those are illegal gaming machines, and there's just a stalemate on that. So I don't expect that to change on that. But that is a bill we're watching. There's an interesting bill, guys, in Hannah, about a bill that's going to be heard in committee today, and it involves wave runners at the Lake of the Ozarks, and that is an issue. That Lake of the Ozarks, you've got boats out there that, quite frankly, would belong on the ocean. I've seen some of those that look like they could be on the ocean. Got wave runners in there, and Representative Thomas has a bill to create a task force on wave runners, and it's not a joke. It's a serious situation. I mean, it's about safety and stuff like that, so that's out there. I really think I think the big story, even though it didn't get all the attention, but you referenced it, Randy, in the interview with Senator Fitzwater, and that is the law enforcement training center in Boone County.
Big deal.
That is a huge deal. And if you noticed, he said, and he's absolutely correct, Caleb Rowden, Kip Kendrick, conservative Republican, a progressive Democrat. When they were in the legislature together, they worked on it. It's a bipartisan issue. Dwayne Carey, our sheriff, is a Democrat. And you are absolutely correct. I think that needs to be emphasized. This would serve people statewide. And they're even looking at doing basically a warehouse where you can train for traffic stops. I was in the Law Enforcement Citizens Training Academy, both the Jeff City Police and the Highway Patrol. And they actually, it was a Citizens Police Academy, but I went through a mock traffic stop, and people think it's so easy. I ended up, quote unquote, getting shot by one of the troops. Yeah, and it happened that quick. And I had my quote unquote gun ready. There was no gun, but it was a mock, and it really it raised my. And that's been a decade ago, if not more. One was in 2003, the other one was in 2009. But what these men and women go through on these traffic stops, I don't know how they do it. I really don't. You don't know who you're pulling over.
I mean, there's so much they have to do before, of course, during, and after. I mean, it's not probably because of all the requisite documentation, the new environment where certainly it is not, there's not the respect for law enforcement in general that there was years ago. So they're under constant threat. It's a big, big deal.
Yeah, well, and it's easy to armchair quarterback the actions that law enforcement take. But like Brian is saying, and he wasn't even in a real situation, but when you're in the heat of the moment and you have milliseconds to react and respond, you don't know what you're going to do.
You don't. And Derek Heisland, I know, probably listens to KWS. I know Chief Wilde, a lot of those guys, Sergeant Clark, I mean, all those guys down in Jefferson City, and the people, I mean, they were all there, and I was with the Highway Patrol as well. Even though it was a mock thing, and I remember even the Highway Patrol, it was actually intimidating. It was tough, but I realized I could never be a police officer. There is no question about that. But Randy, you are correct. The atmosphere and the environment today, but I'll point out, this has happened in many cases. I mean, I'm trying to remember the year. I want to say it was 1985. I may have the year, ballpark. It was down around Branson, but there was a white supremacist The guy named David Tate, he's still, by the way, locked up at Charleston Prison, maximum security.
The Covenant, the Arm, and the Sword of the Lord.
You got it.
The group.
Absolutely. And John, if you remember, they had a manhunt for him that went into 2 states down in the mountains down there along the Missouri-Arkansas border. And the trooper that was killed, it was a traffic stop, but the trooper didn't know. The guy was, I can't remember what Tate was wanted for.
Weapons charges, I think.
Yeah, but he pulled him over more for a traffic stop, but Tate ended up opening fire. And and that trooper died a horrific death. It's just horrible. So
now,
just a tough job.
Getting back to the wave runners, do you have a particular conflict of interest there? Because it's been reported that you've been seen with your Speedo on a wave runner down at the Party Cove. Is that misinformation?
That is misinformation.
That's an AI deep fake?
Yeah, that would raise eyebrows if
I just wanted to make sure. I mean, you brought up that obscure story. I just wanted to make sure that you were not protecting your right to don your Speedo and get on a wave runner.
Wave runner at
that's a visual, folks, if you want to.
No Speedo for me. Yeah, the bill is titled Jet Ski Pilot Program for Lake of the Ozarks, and people probably, but it really
people can wipe out on those and really hurt themselves, or others, swimmers and stuff in the water. Yeah, that's crazy.
Exactly, and you've got boats that are going fast, and we had that. Remember a year ago, a guy was allegedly drunk and crashed into a house.
Yep.
I mean, so a house that was well lit. I mean,
launched up over the bank and into the
on
house.
An island.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
just terrible.
All right, hey, listen. When we come back, we're gonna.
air that, man, kids will be out of school soon, won't they?
Yeah, they really will. Summer will be here before we know it, and pool season will be up on us. So our pool's open for the season May 25th. And if you're looking for a way to save money, we do have season pool passes for sale that are available at the link. An adult pool pass is $115. Youth and senior adult pool pass is $100. And a family of 4 pass is $250. If you have more than 4 people in your family, you can add on another $30 for per person for that.
It's pretty cool. I mean, that's a good thing. And boy, I know a lot of us can think back to being kids. We camped out at the pool for the summer.
Yeah. Well, when you think about the cost of, I think a lot of parents, maybe they toy with the idea of, well, can we buy one of those, put it together above ground pools that's 4 foot deep, but then you have to maintain it, and you're sweeping the leaves out of it, and the kids say they'll do it, but mom and dad end up doing it, and why not just spend a couple $100 and get a family pass? Makes so much sense.
Yep, and really, you only have to use the pass probably 7, 8, 9 times before it's paid for. So it's money well invested.
Talk to us about team sports.
Registrations are ongoing for adult softball and volleyball. Youth volleyball is registration is going on. Registration has closed for summer baseball and softball. So those games will be starting here in the next couple weeks.
Huff Park Golf Center, how's things out there?
Oak Hills Golf Center is going great. If you haven't been out there, the course is in great condition. Stephanie and her crew are booking golf tournaments left and right. We have the Women's League on Wednesdays, the Open League on Thursday evenings. Those are all popular. So it's just a great golf course.
I want to ask you about Earth Day. That's officially, I guess, this coming Monday. But you're having something there event-wise going on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct. We are having our Earth Day celebration Sunday in Memorial Park from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is free, open to the public. We'll have lots of activities for kids to participate in, arts and crafts. There will be music. We'll have a couple of readers. They'll be reading stories. Mm-hmm. So it's just a great day to come out and celebrate the Earth.
What other special events on the agenda, Phil, for Parks and Rec in Jefferson City in the near future?
We have a couple coming up. Next Thursday, April 25th, is the second annual Dog Day at the Diamonds. This will be held over at the 63 Sports Complex from 5 to 7 p.m. And what we do is we open the ball fields for the dogs. We'll section off one of the fields for larger dogs, another field for the smaller dogs, another field for the senior adult dogs. So it's just a fun event for the dogs to run around. We'll have a lot of vendors that are pet friendly. Dave Baker will be playing music. Last Fight will be out there serving samples of their beers. We'll have some food trucks. So it's just a fun day to get your dog out for some exercise and for socializing.
Now, are they running around without a leash and sort of having dog fun, or are they leashed and little control?
When they are in the field, it is off leash, but if they're outside of the fenced area, they do need to be on the leash.
Wow, sounds exciting. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, and size matched so that in case they have a little scuffle, that no one's going to get too hurt. Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what is Porch Fest? I'm looking on jcparks.com on the events tab. What is Porch Fest coming up early in May?
Yeah, Porch Fest is our annual event. We do it actually twice a year. We do one in the spring and one in the fall. And what we do is we go into historic neighborhoods and we use the front porches of the houses and front yards as the stage, and we bring in musical acts.
Cool.
Different visual artists, performing artists. We'll have food trucks. This spring, we're going to be over on Fairmont Boulevard next to McClung Park. And we partner with the Laurie Smith Blues Fest, which